The Otsutsuki travel the cosmos in pairs with a single mandate in mind: plant the tentacles into a planet to grow a god tree, which drains the life force and genetic data of that world to produce a chakra fruit. The catch here is that the lower ranking Otsutsuki must be sacrificed to the tentacles for this tree to bloom. This very rule is what created the entire shinobi history on this planet. Over a millennium ago, Kaguya and Isshiki Otsutsuki arrived to harvest this seedbed. Kaguya was meant to be fed to the tentacles, but she completely rejected her fate, catching Isshiki off guard, betraying him, and leaving him for dead. She then consumed the chakra fruit herself, gaining absolute godlike powers, and used it to end all the Earth's wars by placing everyone under infinite Tsukiyomi. At least that is the story told in the manga. In the anime, Kaguya arrived by herself initially. She lived among the humans, had kids, and only consumed the chakra fruit when they turned against her. Now as for combat abilities, she possessed the Byakugan and the Reni Sharingan on her forehead, allowing her to instantly shift herself and her enemies into entirely different lethal dimensions, like a sea of lava, a world made of ice, or even a high-intensity gravity dimension. She can even vaporize someone by simply looking at them, and can also fire all-killing ash bones from her palms, which instantly disintegrates any living target they impale. Not to mention her expansive Shutsukin orb, which had the power to destroy an entire time-space. Kaguya's raw power was so immense that she couldn't be killed through conventional damage. It took the combined efforts of Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura, and Kakashi just to seal her away. Now while Kaguya was ruling as a tyrant and casting infinite Tsukiyomi to build an army of white Zetsu, Isshiki was surviving through a completely different, adaptable method. After being almost killed by Kaguya, using his Kokugan Dojutsu ability Sukinai Kona, he instantly shrunk his body down to a very small size, crawled directly into the air of a passing monk named Jigen, living inside his brain as a parasite, to the point of gaining full control over his body. Over time, Isshiki embedded a karma seal into Jigen's body. The karma seal, by the way, is essentially a compressed backup of the Otsutsuki biological data. Once implanted, it acts like a virus, slowly overwriting the vessel's native DNA until the extraction reaches 100%, at which point the Otsutsuki completely resurrects within that body and the host is permanently erased. So he has essentially been living on this planet this entire time in the shadows. Having said that, Ishiki's raw power completely breaks the traditional scaling of the Naruto universe. In Boruto, his physical speed and taijutsu effortlessly destroyed Naruto and Sasuke's absolute strongest forms, them inside the avatars. He was able to easily kick Sasuke directly out of his perfect Susanoo, proving to be stronger than the two best shinobi in existence, though Naruto and Sasuke succeeded in weakening Jigen's body, to the point that Kashinkoji could defeat him, forcing Isshiki to undergo his resurrection. The problem is that while Jigen's body was compatible with karma, he wasn't a proper vessel, so Ishiki's immense power was essentially destroying his body from the inside, so he only had 3 days to find a new body or face extinguishment. Even so, Ishiki's strength was still too much for Naruto and Sasuke, along with his ability to summon giant cubes from his timeless dimension. It got so bad that Naruto was forced to merge his life force with Kurama's to access the terminal Baryon mode, just to briefly overpower Isshiki and drain his lifespan. So Isshiki ended up dying because he couldn't find a proper vessel, and his soul itself was extinguished. Speaking of defeat, let's look at the kids who actually pulled it off originally. Kaguya also gave birth to twins, Hagoromo and Hamura, making them the first humans ever born with the innate ability to wield the chakra. When Kaguya went insane and merged with the God Tree, which is another form of the tentacles, the brothers fought her in an intense battle, eventually sealing the beast's immense chakra directly inside of Hagoromo. This action made him the first Jinchuriki in history. Hagoromo was revered across the entire planet as the Sage of Six Paths. He wielded the Renegon, mastered all 5 basic nature transformations, along with yin-yang release, and also possessed 6-path Senjutsu with truth-seeking orbs. He was so immensely powerful that, along with the help of Hamura, he used Chibaku Tensei to literally create the moon just to imprison the physical husk of the Ten-Tails after extracting its chakra, which he then used to create the Biju. Now Hamura migrated to the moon along with the rest of their clan, which was pretty much humans, to act as eternal guardians over Kaguya's sealed remains, which by the way is now a part of the Ten-Tails husk since Kaguya merged with the Ten-Tails. Now Mr. Hagoromo then went on to pass on his teachings known as Ninshu onto his two sons, Indra and Ashura. Indra was a born prodigy, inheriting his father's visual prowess and spiritual energy. Indra applied his genius to invent hand seals, weaponizing Ninshu into the martial art of ninjutsu that every shinobi uses today. This means that the entire magic system of the ninja world is literally just a workaround for an alien hybrid who wanted more efficiency. Indra also then awakened the Sharingan and eventually the Mangekyo Sharingan as well, which granted him the ability to manifest the complete body Susanoo. His younger brother Ashura was a late bloomer though, possessing zero natural talent, but he also gained immense power through empathy, hard work, and the shared chakra of his followers. Hagoromo ultimately chose Ashura as his successor and bestowed him with 6-path Senjutsu. Ashura fought back using a giant wood-release avatar and overpowered Indra. Indra's massive Susanoo and Ashura's multi-armed Buddha construct set the baseline for the legendary clashes we saw later on between Madara and Hashirama, since their chakra literally reincarnated into those descendants to continue their bitter feud. Now while Hagoromo's kids were fighting in the mud, a section of Hamura's bloodline was completely isolated on the moon. Over centuries, the lunar branch of the family misinterpreted Hamura's dying decree. They believed that it was their divine duty to utterly destroy the earth if the humans weaponized chakra for war. This fanatical belief eventually led to a massive civil war on the moon, leaving Toneri Otsutsuki as the sole survivor. Living without eyes due to a branch family tradition where the Byakugan is sealed into a massive energy vessel, Toneri grew up completely blind and alone, surrounded only by an army of autonomous puppets. To enact his 1,000-year plan, Toneri stole Anabi Hyuga's pure Byakugan, which reacted with his Otsutsuki chakra to awaken the legendary Tenseigan. This dojutsu allowed him to enter the Tenseigan chakra mode, granting him enough physical strength and speed to go toe-to-toe with Naruto's sage-enhanced Nine-Tails chakra mode. His gravitational control was so absurdly powerful that he literally pulled the moon itself out of orbit to crash it into the planet, and he could also manifest a massive golden chakra sword, the golden wheel of reincarnation, that was able to slice the entire moon in half. Now that might sound insane, but there are even threats that scale way beyond that, because Kaguya wasn't building a massive white Zetsu army just for fun. She was actually worried about the main branch clan members finding her. This fear was entirely justified when these entities finally arrived on the planet thousands of years later. Momoshiki, Kinshiki, and Urashiki Otsutsuki. Momoshiki was a high-ranking member of the main family with a massive superiority complex and a deeply ingrained sadistic mentality. He also possessed the Byakugan and also had renegons embedded directly into his palms. His right hand could absorb any ninjutsu thrown at him, and his left hand could fire it back with massively amplified destructive force. It made him an absolute nightmare for any ninja that relies on chakra-based attacks. When Momoshiki was finally pushed into a corner by the combined assault of the Kage and Boruto, he literally turned his loyal partner Kinshiki into a glowing chakra fruit and consumed him to power up. Now Kinshiki himself was a heavily muscled tank standing over 2 meters tall, whose primary ability was forming highly durable, glowing red chakra weapons out of his own chakra. He was incredibly dominant in close quarter combat. Even while on the verge of death, he managed to slice completely through the hardened trunk of the god tree with a single swing of his sword. His power mostly stemmed from his ability to further enhance his muscle fiber through chakra manipulation and his overall proficiency in taijutsu. After consuming Kinshiki, this fusion of sort allowed Momoshiki to attain physical prowess that was capable of completely destroying the 4 Kage in seconds, and he could even briefly fight adult Naruto and Sasuke at the same time. Because his entire arsenal relied on stolen abilities, he lacked the fundamental combat endurance. He was outmaneuvered by Naruto and Sasuke's tactical synergy and ultimately destroyed by Boruto's massive Rasengan, though Momoshiki was able to anchor his soul to the mortal plane by forcefully implanting a karma seal onto Boruto's body right before his soul was extinguished. So the parasite did what parasites do. Now, while Momoshiki and Kinshiki were throwing hands with the strongest, their scout Urashiki was playing an entirely different game. Urashiki was very elusive. He wielded a chakra fishing rod that could effortlessly pierce a target's defenses, allowing him to rip out a portion of their chakra and store it in his ethereal gourd. Once he ate that stolen chakra, he gained complete mastery over the victim's jutsu, letting him spam things like Mitsuki's lightning release or Temari's wind abilities. For some unknown reason, this guy could shift his Byakugan into a blue Tomio-less Renegan, which granted him temporal rewind abilities. This allowed him to warp backwards in time by a few seconds to perfectly evade lethal attacks and preemptively counter his opponents based on his near future knowledge. Sasuke Uchiha speculated that Urashiki was on par with, if not even greater than Kaguya herself, yet somehow, despite having literal time travel powers and eventually eating his own eyeballs to transform into a terrifying flying monster, Urashiki was beaten by 2 12-year-olds, a genin Boruto and a younger Naruto that was just able to use the Rasengan. So the scaling here is a bit wonky, but it is the canonical history. I will say that this more so stemmed from his own arrogance, which led to him being poisoned by Jiraiya's toad, so he wasn't necessarily at full power. Now, to understand the absolute ceiling of this universe, we have to look at the literal gods. According to the lore based on the events of chapter 75, the ultimate endpoint of the Otsutsuki evolutionary cycle is becoming the Otsutsuki God, which a guy named Shibai Otsutsuki attained. This happened over several millennia ago. Shibai successfully consumed countless planets and chakra fruits across numerous dimensions, repeatedly using the karma seal to resurrect and refine his genetics. Through this endless cycle of resurrection, he completely transcended biological mortality. Having attained true godhood, his physical body became obsolete, so he discarded it and ascended to a higher dimensional plane. There was also another fascinating reveal that took place in chapter 75, which is that the Otsutsuki possess Shinjutsu, or divine arts, which represent the highest possible order of energy manipulation. Amado, who is the scientist of Kara, confirmed that standard ninjutsu and senjutsu are just pale, rudimentary imitations of Shinjutsu. We're talking about abilities that bypass all logic. Shiba himself possessed omnipotence, the ultimate programming language of reality, which has the power to instantly rewrite the memories and histories of the entire planetary population, or even create worlds and make anything real. He also had reflection, an absolute defense mechanism that automatically bounces any physical attack or even just hostile intent directly back at the enemy. He also had prescience, a clairvoyant temporal ability which allowed him to perceive all possible branching futures and timelines simultaneously to orchestrate the best possible outcome. Then there's the Senringan, which allowed him to view any present or past event, at least up until the moment he was born. So this guy was pretty much a god. Now Mr. Kawaki and Boruto are also now full Otsutsuki due to the effects of Momoshiki and Isshiki's karma seal, but that's an entirely different process that I'll cover in my Otsutsuki vessel video, so I will see you guys on that one.